welcome everyone. I'm just going to play a quick message from our African Youth Waste Network coordinator, Anga Mbeya, who unfortunately can't be with us today. But since we are doing things a little bit differently for this series, the African Waste Academy and the African Youth Waste Network are collaborating on the series to bring you the stories of some youth-led organizations that are doing amazing things for the environment. So we're going to quickly play the video message from Anga, and then we'll get started.
Hello everyone, Molweni. My name is Anga Mbeya and I'm the African Youth Waste Network Coordinator, and welcome to our first day of our webinar that's going to be taking place for the next 3 weeks. Unfortunately, I cannot be here with you guys today live, and I had to pre-record this because I'm currently in Kaiamouth doing some amazing stuff on the ground with amazing youth here in the Eastern Cape. But worry not, you are in good hands. Tara is going to be here holding your hand and giving you directions throughout this webinar. I'm so excited to hear about what is happening in South Africa. We have amazing speakers lined up who will be telling you what's happening in the communities, evolving plastic, and how they are doing this amazing job of being community leaders in their respective areas. We have amazing panelists as well that will be giving them great advice and support to better their standard of work and actually lead them to better opportunities as well. So this is a great platform to engage and to be with like-minded people, and I'm so excited to hear what they have done and what's been planned. So sit back, relax, learn, ask questions, because this is a safe space and we're just here to learn from each other, support one another, and network with each other. This is what the African Youth Waste Network is all about. Having great African minds, doing great things, and seeing how SST can collaborate all these parties and help each other to reach new heights. So I'm excited for the first ever webinar that's starting today. I really hope you guys enjoy the speakers because I definitely will. And thank you to all the panelists that have taken time out to listen to this youth and support them where they can. Have a great one, guys, and I'll see you guys all next week. Keep well.
We're going to now hand over to our first speaker, who is Asithandile, who's going to be presenting on greener times. Asithandile, whenever you're ready, I'm just going to pull up the slides now.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara. Okay. Humble greetings to you all. I am Asithandile Ntsondwa, a co-founder of Greener Times Initiative. I'd first like to thank the Sustainable Seas Trust African Waste Academy for inviting Greener Times to this webinar. Slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. No, go back. Thank you. Okay. I started this initiative with my very close friend, Sadika Benjamin, who is not available today. We started Greener Times over a conversation one afternoon in university where we were complaining about not knowing many youth-led environmental organizations in Nelson Mandela Bay. And we were very eager to be part of a group of people that shared similar ideas and goals, and we're ready to act on those. So after that afternoon, Sadika and I decided to start our own youth-led non-profit organization, but we settled on starting an initiative instead, since we're both not ready to deal with the logistics of calling whatever we're doing an organization. Next slide, please. So, the time issues by our communities, such as pollution. It is further aimed at educating the public how to tackle issues, efforts, all to work together a greener future. Next slide, please.
Sure. Also, Asithandile, your voice seems to be breaking up slightly. Perhaps maybe switch off your video for this one.
No problem. Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. One of our first missions, which is currently our main mission, was around university in Gqeberha. 19, and we were joined by a group of our friends and a few schools. Next slide, please. We have had some hiccups along the way. The first one being the issue of time. We have struggled so many times to plan more cleanups because of clashes with university work and other involvements, such as being part of society leadership. Our second challenge has been cleanups, things such as some of the we had reach more communities. One of the reasons why I decided to join the African Youth Waste Network to learn from other people and figure out a way to take that we've learned back to our communities. As I'm from Tata, and I'm only here because of these, I wanted to learn from the African Waste Network and through my involvement with Greener Times and other environmental organizations on how I action within the youth of participation in our cleanups. We just organized them from the beginning, and we do appreciate those people very much, but we would like to see more people getting involved. Next slide, please. Which is actually one of the things we look forward to as Greener Times. As such, we have expanded our communication platforms because we began, when we initially started Greener Times, we were only using a WhatsApp group as our main source of communication. And we shared that link in our own personal social media. But then we have now created a social media accounts exclusively for Greener Times. And those are run by Ntsumpa. We are also hoping to engage with more organizations, which is why it is such an honor to be here today, because we have been looking for opportunities to share knowledge with other people and learn from them and hope that they can also learn from us. As previous other people that have experiences, hopefully through all this, we can reach more communities. Next slide, please. Well, I reached the end of my presentation. That is all I have for you today. I hope you have enjoyed it, and to get to know us better and see what we get up to, you can find Greener Times on these social media platforms. Thank you once again. You may end the slideshow.
Thank you, Asithandile. It's wonderful to hear the work that you're doing. And with regard to your points about taking part with us, that's part of our motivation, that we want to help connect different networks and empower the youth to further their environmental goals. So we're very happy to have you here with us today. We're going to move on now to Sia. The slide should be up whenever you're ready, Sia.
Good morning, everybody who's all here, and thank you to SST, to Tara and Anga for this opportunity. I love networking opportunities, and also thank you for the day off. I've had to stay home just to do this presentation, so I'm taking the day off today. We can move along with the slides, Tara, thank you. Okay, so I run the Giving the Wings Foundation. We are a nonprofit in the Nelson Mandela Metro, and we develop sustainable living projects in schools. And we currently work on food security, recycling projects, and environmental awareness in our schools and in the stakeholders that we work with. And we base a lot of our work on the partnerships that we are able to go into and to work with. Thank you, Tara. So just a little bit of background. We started in 2014. So this year we are 7 years old. And we started with one school where really the need came from seeing the kids coming to school and realizing that there are underlying problems. For example, you'd see kids sleeping in class and you'd realize, and when you probe them and you speak to them, you realize, hey, he probably didn't have breakfast, or well, he will tell you that he didn't have breakfast or he didn't have anything to eat the night before. And then you realize the problem is actually, part of the problem is hunger at home, and part of the challenge is not having any food at home. So we started the food gardens, and we started with one school, and we currently today work in all of these schools listed here. We have a project in the clinic in Motherwell. We have a school in East London that we have started working with as well. So we've enjoyed the successes and the partnerships that we've had with our schools and the different projects that we have been able to engage in, particularly in recycling and food security. Thank you, Tara. So this is just an example of one of our projects in Motherwell High. This is actually one of our newest schools. I think we started here early this year. So what we do is we approach the school and we develop an eco club, what I call them Enviro Buddies. And they dedicate their time, they break their after schools to working the land in the school, or they recycle, or they do cleanups. Normally we do one beach cleanup a month, and we do every Friday, we try to do a community cleanup. And this is just an example of some of our work, some of our produce. So the picture you'll see on the right with all of the greens, that goes into the school feeding scheme, and sometimes the kids are able to sell it. The day before yesterday, not at this school, but at another school, we had a harvest, actually one of the primary schools, and the kids were able to make about 400 Rand just from selling spinach, and also during break, which is about a 40-minute break. So just to show you the amount of work that they put in. So basically, we focus on schools, and we have a definition for what an eco school, according to the Giving the Wings Foundation. Someone else can come along and say, no, look, this isn't what we believe an eco school is. But from our side, as the Giving the Wings Foundation, we look at involving the kids primarily. The kids must be as involved as possible in the work. And then everything else that the school is able to do comes from the kids being involved in that project. So we set principles of what an eco school should do. And basically, this is just the guideline of saying, if we're working with your school, these are the things that we look for. So we look for learners in the front of the program. The learners must be available to do the work. How involved is the entire school in the project? And can we use the project to create a sense of community? Can we work with the community around the school? So in other words, one of the schools where we do food gardening will harvest, and then on particular days, for example, 17th of October is one of my favorite environmental days. It is the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. And we share our harvest, we share seedlings with the community, particularly the elderly. And that's how we create a sense of community around the work and around the goals of the 2030 development goals, and also creating a sense of awareness for young people. I believe it's very important for young people to be as responsible as they can be for their environment, whether they are in the townships or anywhere, if they are in some strand or if they are wherever. It's important for kids to be as active as possible. So in the schools where we work, as I said before, our focus is the school. So in the school where we work, we sort of give them a guide onto how to develop their program. There are over 365 schools, the last time I checked, in the Ntsumpa Metro, over 6,000 in the whole province. So we will never be able to go into all of those schools, but we try to give schools a guideline on how to be as successful as the schools we have adopted. So this is just a 5-step guide we give to schools that are interested in developing an program. But at the heart of it is making sure that your kids participate and that they have pride in the work that they do. And there's also a vision for the school and how it can achieve its goals. Again, with a focus on schools, there's always work to be done. So we always craft activities that can be done inside the school, which focus on the learners and the school environment. And then there's work that can be done outside of the school, the awareness that young people can create. For example, a lot of people outside of, just generally in our townships, they don't really understand the concept of recycling and the concept of sorting materials and why we sort materials and how different materials are. You know, for example, a cool drink bottle is a cool drink bottle is a cool drink bottle to a lot of people, but they don't have an understanding of the different sorting colors, of the different grading of each particular bottle. So a lot of the awareness that we drive schools to do is to make sure that people understand what we do when we recycle. What is the difference between a can of tuna and a can of Coke? What is the difference between the bottle of Amasi and the bottle of Coca-Cola? The plastic bottles. What is the difference between a single-use bag and a bag that has already been recycled, or a bag made from recyclable material? That is the awareness that we drive schools to do. And also what's important is to drive home the message of value items instead of trash. In a lot of the schools that I go into, the first thing that I do when I'm invited into a school is I literally go through the bins to see what they are throwing away. Because a lot of the times people don't realize that they are throwing away recyclable material, and that's valuable material. Because, so as I said before, our foundation focuses on the learner first. The work really is centered around what the kids can achieve. And this is one of our young ambassadors. His name is Asithandile Ntsondwa, someone we are very proud of. He's been an ambassador since grade 5, which is about, is it 3 years ago? He's in grade 7 now. And he's one of our most successful ambassadors. He has been with me throughout the journey. It has at his school. He's been with me in all different types of presentations. I've been invited to Ntsumpa University. He's been there with me. I've been invited to talks, and he's there with me to articulate the message that our foundation instills in them in his own words. And earlier this, well, not earlier this year, actually a couple of weeks ago, he was awarded, he did an interview online with an American NGO that does awards for young people in this space. And he was one of the finalists actually in the world, and he was the only person in the country, and also in fact the continent, to receive an award as a finalist in the Youth Eco Awards for 2021 from the United States. So we strive to have these kinds of young achievements in young people in our schools and where we work. Thank you, Tara. And again, for me, recycling and food gardening go hand in hand. A lot of the time when you go, if you work in the townships, you'll understand the condition of the waste that we find. And I always say to the kids, if we are going to do a recycling program, we are going to do a garden, and vice versa. And you know, we take a lot of nice pictures in our gardens, but a lot of people, what I don't tell people, and we also produce a lot of good product. We actually, one of our schools actually supplies the spa in Motherwell with spinach once a week, and that money goes into the school garden club. But what I don't share with people is how much of a recyclable material goes into our food garden. For example, if you look in the picture on the left, the before, you'll see all of that nice soil. But underneath all of that is cardboard that we took, and newspapers that we took from the dustbin. The school was throwing things away. And I always say, everything that goes into your bin can either be directly recycled, it can be reused, or it can be composted. And in that way, we eliminate what goes into the bin and eventually what goes into landfill. So part of the work is integrating the food production into recycling and recycling into food production. Thank you, Tara. And that's us, basically, in a nutshell. We are the Giving the Wings Foundation. We are GTW_fund on Instagram. And we are gtwfund.co.za if you want to check out our website. I just want to thank Tara and the rest of the team at SST for this opportunity. And also this networking. I hope to meet new people and to form new partnerships with young people in the Metro and across the Eastern Cape. And of course, across the country. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sia. It was wonderful to see all the wonderful things that the Giving Them Wings Foundation does. And I think, yes, you have a very unique and holistic approach that really addresses not only recycling, but also the needs of the community and food security and all those sorts of things as well. So I think there have been some comments coming through in the chat here that says very amazing, a great initiative. So thank you so much, Sia.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, thank you guys so much for having me and watching our presentation. My name is Samantha Chetty, and I'm from the African Youth Waste Network. We are a youth-driven initiative from the Sustainable Seas Trust. And today, my co-presenter and I will be presenting on marine waste issues. So if you haven't been to KwaZulu-Natal, welcome virtually. So KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa has these very beautiful sandy beaches, which attract thousands of international and national tourists. They are drawn to the warm Indian Ocean for its wonderful views, its relaxation, its surfing, and its spectacular wildlife. As you can see, there's loads of humpback whales that also pass by the Durban coastline on its way to Mozambique for feeding and breeding. However, we see after we have these very heavy rains, they transform our beautiful coastline into a literal dump site. The rain washes away the pollution from the upstream rivers, and it results in a tremendous amount of litter, which cascades into the ocean and our beaches as well. As you can see, it is also inclusive of Durban, which is a popular tourist destination. So every year, 90,000 to 250,000 tons of garbage into the ocean surrounding our country. And that is equivalent to 5 trucks of garbage being dumped into the ocean every single hour. We know one of our major problems is plastic, and plastic is something which simply does not go away. It generally does not biodegrade, it simply gets smaller and smaller, and we refer to those microplastics as nodules. So plastic, for those reasons that plastic is not biodegradable, it is called one of the world's greatest innovations, and its demand is expected to grow due to population and middle class growth. However, it has a lot of effects and environmental effects, such as damaging ship propellers, entangling wildlife and nets, and as you can see, animals and wildlife ingest it and it eventually kills them. So where does all of this waste come from? Well, 80% of marine waste actually comes from land. The waste that we mismanage and dispose of has to land up somewhere. So the heavy rains and these flash floods carry this mismanaged waste into the ocean, which ends up into a litter sink. One of the issues we have in South Africa is that we have these illegal dump sites because we have these very poor communities which do not have any aid from the municipality in terms of waste management. So these informal settlements are situated alongside the rivers and they have nowhere to throw their dirt, and it lands up into the rivers and is being carried away downstream into our oceans. Another of our problems are our landfills. Our landfills are in incredibly dire state. It is being mismanaged. It has actually become hazardous to people, and it is also reaching the end of life. In many cases, we do not have even any legal airspace. There's also the issue of limited funds to create new landfills. So in other words, we have to look for alternatives. There's no other option. We have reached a place where even throwing money at the problem is not going to solve our issues. If we implement corrective measures today or soon, then a sustainable solution is only probably available like a decade away. So it is imperative that we sort out our mounting waste crisis today. So one of the most direct ways to get rid of our waste is to change what is happening on land. change in terms of how we look at waste, change in terms of how we handle waste, as well as education. And I don't mean just reduce, reuse, and recycle, because this is something that we have known for a very long period of time, but it's not something that we are actually implementing. So we need genuine solutions that we as individuals can implement. So everyone here, I'm sure, is very passionate about nature and protecting it. However, let's be honest. How many of us actually recycle often? How many of us reuse often? I know I have a lot of guilt when I throw away this nice jar because my mother buys a lot of pickles. But then what do I do with all of these jars? Because I don't have a lot of time to sit and do all of these DIY projects, as you see on the right. However, there are several initiatives that have jumped aboard the Save the Ocean ship. And my question is, will we sink or will we float? So the Department of Environment, Forestries and Fisheries have teamed up with various stakeholders, such as Durban Green Corridors, to attempt to stem the flow of marine litter that is reaching our oceans using these 5 important river systems, because some of them lead directly into the Indian Ocean. And the technique that they have chosen are these litter booms, which you can see in the picture. What it does, it collects the floating waste and debris, as well as trapping alien invasive species such as the known water hyacinth. And what it does, it prevents it washing down further downstream into the estuaries and into the ocean. So it is quite effective. And these booms are going to be cleaned daily for the 2 years where this project is going to be implemented. The department also aims to implement a waste sorting and recycling program in one community per those 5 rivers. They also are considering doing these swap shops. And swap shops are basically where community members swap their recyclables for essentials. And as you know, we live in a poverty-stricken society. So this is a very, very valuable initiative. And what it does, it helps communities to become more involved in litter collection and actually see the value in waste, and especially waste plastic. So another thing is that recyclers do not collect enough of recyclables. So there's enormous potential for this initiative. The Alliance to End Plastic Waste has a 4-part strategy, which is infrastructure, innovation, education, and cleanups. And the thing that really speaks to me here is innovation. What we actually need is better solutions that actually work and can be implemented. Because remember, we have so many brilliant minds in our youth. However, the brilliant minds is not being used. So it's something that we need to really use in future. So the biggest thing for me is that we need cooperation between youth, between government, between private sector and the community so that we can have this visible change. And I've noticed that a lot of emphasis is placed on the daily person changing their habits, but we really focus on creating enough pressure where there's actual problems. And where the problems are is that with these communities that are producing a lot of plastic, and sometimes the government who do not regulate it enough. People's actions tend to merely be a product of the way society is built. So we can't be shifting the blame to people all the time and expect them to be solving these huge world problems. So in my opinion, we need an approach where genuinely everyone is trying. Otherwise, we really are not going to win. So how do I fit into this picture? My name is Samantha Chetty, as I've already stated. I'm an intern at the Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, also known as ETIA, under the Pollution and Waste sector. I have a master's in environmental science, and I love volunteering. I'm very passionate about nature and sustainability. I dedicate a lot of my time to learning, experiencing, trying to solve problems. And currently, I'm a member for the Youth for Marine Protected Areas. I'm a committee member for African Youth Waste Network and the Benguela Current Commission. I've just added a small collage of my journey for the past few years where I've been volunteering. If you look smack in the middle, squint your eyes a little bit, you'll see Austin actually there in the middle, who is my co-presenter. And what I did is I attended one of the events that he hosted with the other committee members. It was a a waste, a trash hunt. What we did is we went to a park and we looked at what types of trash that was found. So it was actually one of the most exciting events I've been to. And what we want to do at the AYWN is create one of those events that are memorable and educate people to want to create new solutions. So as a part of the youth, I want genuine solutions. I want us to collaborate in unprecedented ways. One of the things I've also noticed is that people who have been in the environmental sector for maybe like 20 years have a lot of knowledge that they only pass on to certain people. So what I would like in future is we could create some sort of platforms where you educate not only employed people, but unemployed people and youth in general. As I've already stated, we have so many unemployed youth, we have no jobs, and we have so many problems. So what we need to do is we need to find solutions. So my job as a youth is to be really active, to learn from people in the sector and to create those solutions. Okay, on to Austin now. He'll be taking the next half of the presentation.
Thanks, Samantha. Good morning, everyone. My name is Austin Sharkey, and I'm on the African Youth Waste Network with Samantha. And I'm just going to keep the rest of this presentation very brief because I know that we are running out of time. And for the sake of my internet not betraying me, I'll switch off my video for the rest of the presentation. Okay, so just a little bit of background on who I am. I have an honors in environmental management, and I'm currently completing my master's in environmental science, and also work part-time as a tutor at UKZN for undergraduates studying geography and environmental science. I'm a member of the International Association for Impact Assessment, also known as IASA, and I'm currently the chairperson of IASA KZN, the student branch. I'm also a member of the Youth for Marine Protected Areas and a member of the African Youth Waste Network KZN, which I'm here to talk about today. And I've also volunteered for several different organizations, both participating in as well as planning and organizing cleanups, seminars, workshops, all centered on environmental education, which is something that I'm very passionate about. So you can see some pictures. As Samantha mentioned, I organized a few months ago a cleanup in Pietermaritzburg in a park along the Duzi River as well. And we spent a few hours collecting trash, and it was a really fun educational event. Okay, so as Samantha mentioned, we represent the African Youth Waste Network, KZN Committee. We have committee members based in Durban as well as Pietermaritzburg, and we also have a counterpart which is based in the Eastern Cape. This initiative falls under a broader initiative that aims to create a cleaner, healthy, and more sustainable future for our oceans and coastal communities. So drawing from what Samantha said with regards to the issues, there is a strong need to combat waste issues from both a strategic but also from an action-orientated sense. And this is where organizations such as our own and the ones that I've presented here today are so important because they provide a platform for youth to network and share ideas that can then be implemented and offer some sort of solution to combat the waste issues that we face. So in terms of our organization and its experiences, as the African Youth Waste Network KZN Committee, we aim to be action-orientated and practically contribute to solving waste issues. And a large consensus that a key player in working towards the goal of zero waste or zero plastic in our oceans will need to involve the youth of South Africa and to a large extent Africa. But in addition to that, we also need support from different spheres of government as well as the private sector. I've been fortunate enough to work with different organizations on putting together environmental educational events as well as cleanups, and a large portion of those who actively contribute and participate in these kinds of events are youth. And we definitely need more awareness and to network with each other and really grow these networks, because these kinds of initiatives can have a really big impact in helping to bring about sustainability and conservation. As the African Youth Waste Network KZN, what we're aiming to do is to create a platform for youth to actively share knowledge, skills, resources, create a platform for collaboration. As a KZN committee, we're relatively new. We just came together a few months ago. We're currently in the process of planning our first event, which will be a beach cleanup to be hosted in a few weeks' time. in recognition of our ocean for celebrating Heritage Day. And we'll be on the beach educating participants with fun quizzes and educational games in addition to doing the beach cleanup. And we're very excited to come together and start brainstorming ideas to contribute as a group towards combating waste and pollution in our ocean and in inland communities as well. So just to sum up some of the solutions that we've discussed as individuals and as a group, firstly, I think the solution to the issues that we face will need to involve a range of different approaches and will need a teamwork effort. In the field of environmental management, you learn very quickly that a one-size-fits-all solution will never work, and you need to network with people and depend on other people's knowledge and skills and work as a team to combat these issues. To reference the African Marine Waste Conference of July 2017, one of the biggest outcomes of that conference was that capacity building, skills transfer, and education needs to be at the forefront of the steps needed to take to address waste issues in South African and to a large extent African communities. Because unfortunately, South Africa environmental awareness is very low. So I think we need to raise more awareness on how our actions as citizens and as people affect the ocean and the environment. And as an individual, what I would like to achieve and what I would like for us as the African Youth Waste Network to achieve is develop and grow initiatives that aim to educate youth and communities on the impact that they have on the ocean and on the environment. Might that be through hosting seminars or webinars like this one, organizing cleanups, networking with like-minded individuals, organizations, but more importantly, empowering youth to be more environmentally conscious. Because with increased awareness, I think these kinds of initiatives can have a huge impact in bringing about conservation and sustainability as more people learn about the impact that they have on the environment and on the ocean. Hopefully they'll start making a conscious behavioral change to dispose of their waste appropriately, for example, or to use alternatives to plastic where they are available. And this is something that I've seen definitely work in my own personal experience volunteering for different organizations. For example, with IASA, when we started doing these kinds of events, we were seeing 10 to 20 people joining us, and through networking and through sharing and collaborating with other organizations on these events, we've been able to grow that to upwards of 150 people now wanting to join us when we do these events. But unfortunately, COVID has limited us greatly. And then in a more broader sense, talking now from as citizens and as South Africans, we definitely do need support from the private sector and from government, because there's only so much that we can do without the resources or without infrastructure, for example. As Samantha mentioned, there are opportunities for government to implement waste sorting or recycling programs. I think there also needs to be a shift from an industry perspective towards a more circular green economy, shift to biodegradable alternatives to plastic, for example. I've seen some really great initiatives. For example, similar to the swap shops that Samantha mentioned, there's Trash for Cash, where people can trade in recyclable waste for cash that they can use to buy essentials. I've seen small businesses that have used recyclable plastic to create face masks or jewelry, for example. And these are really great initiatives that link back to the idea of seeing the value of waste. But I think as citizens, I think we need to support these businesses and these initiatives. And with increased awareness, hopefully, more people will jump onto supporting those kinds of initiatives. And I've also seen how social media can be a really effective tool to get our message across. I've seen people who post information about product life cycles. So looking at a product's life cycle from manufacturing to disposal and how at each stage that product negatively impacts the ocean or the environment. And that's been a really great tool to draw people's attention, and hopefully they make a switch to more environmentally friendly alternatives. And then lastly, I just wanted to mention in the research space, something that I've been really fortunate enough to be able to work on is, so my research looks at GIS and remote sensing using drones or unmanned aerial vehicles in environmental applications for conservation and sustainability. And a really cool an innovative direction that research is going into is looking at the use of low-cost drones that can be placed in the ocean and in river ecosystems and collect waste, and then that waste can be extracted and recycled. So that was just a little cool tidbit that I wanted to share with everyone, and hopefully in a few years' time that technology will be available to the public, because that could be a really innovative way to combat waste from a technological and research perspective as well. So that's us. That's the African Youth Waste Network. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to the organizers for inviting us to speak.
Thank you so much, Samantha and Austin. It's great to hear the work that you guys are doing and all the fun initiatives that you have to get people involved and to clean up the environments. So we're going to move now into our panel session. One of the goals for the series is to connect youth with each other, with other youth, as well as with professionals in a variety of sectors who can help further the environmental goals and promote their organizations and the best ways that they can do that. So on that note, we're very lucky to have Kathy Drummond with us here today. Kathy, who was unfortunately plunged into darkness for a little bit, but we're very glad to have you back with us. Would you mind just introducing yourself quickly, and then we'll move on to some questions.
Yes, sure. Thanks, Tara. I work for SAMRA, the South African Association for Marine Biological Research at the Sharkey SeaWorld Education Centre. Where part of my job is education support services. But I come from almost 30 years working in the environmental field, most of it in environmental education, and the last 20 odd years or so working on marine-based projects, which included things like managing the Working for the Coast project. So I've seen the beaches at their worst, and I've seen the beaches at their best here in Durban. It's very, you get very emotionally tied up in it, and it can become quite draining at times and frustrating with it. But yeah, so that's where I come from in a very brief nutshell.
Thank you, Kathy. I understand a certain optimistic attitude is definitely necessary in the environmental sector. With your background as an educator, can you advise on some communication strategies which are particularly effective in the environmental spheres that the youth who've spoken today could utilize in their organizations?
Okay. In today's day and age, social media is a very important aspect in communication. Everybody is on social media, and you mustn't be scared of using it. Just speaking from personal experience, not me, but members in my family, TikTok is a big way to go. It's the latest thing. And I was taking a group of youngsters around on a guiding in the aquarium on Tuesday, and they were telling me how they were following this chap on TikTok who is telling his story about cleaning up the oceans and litter campaigns and everything like that, and reusing litter that he's been clearing up. And so things like that are something to look into, because there are people out there who follow this and who share it far and wide with their friends, talk about it, discuss it, and it becomes a motivation to them. So short fun clips on Instagram and TikTok, I see most of them are using Instagram already. It's very important with communicating that you know your audience very well, that you do some research and see exactly what drives your targeted audience, and then target your communication strategies to suit them. So what works for the youth doesn't work for older people. What works for older people in this day and age will definitely more than likely not work for the youth. So you need to know that. You need to know what stimulates them, what's going to encourage them to take things further and to get involved, rather than just sitting and watching and sharing. We've got a whole army of keyboard warriors. We need to push them into moving from being keyboard warriors to being physical warriors, and knowing how and what drives them with your communication strategy, using the correct communication strategies will move them onto that next step. And also knowing what's relevant in their areas. So what works in Nelson Mandela Bay is not going to work in Durban, and what works in Durban is not going to work up in Cozy Bay, and all going to work on the Kei River mouth, because everybody's needs are different, and you need to know that, so that again you can target your communication to suit what's going to drive move people into doing things. When you're doing things like planning activities and stuff like that, or planning events, make sure that it's just not talking and using speech as a communication strategy, but ensure that there's a lot of action involved. People like to get involved, they like to get hands-on, and by doing that, they're then going to go out and communicate further for you. So they become part of your communication strategy. Just from the aquariums and our bit of our journey is we've actually evolved from wanting to make people aware of the problems and the issues to getting them to care about the impacts of those issues. Everybody knows litter is a problem. It seems insurmountable. So you need to change your message from being litter is a problem to, if you care for the earth and you care for what's happening in your area, this is what you can do to make a difference. Every little drop counts. So yes, you might be a little drop, a small drop in the ocean, but if you have 60 small drops in the ocean, 60 small drops makes a small bowl. You have 100 small bowls and it becomes a big bucket. You have 100 big buckets and it becomes a pond. You have 6 ponds and it becomes a dam. And that's how, one of the ways that you can get people to see that every little thing counts. So you need to try and tie all of that into what works best, what communication strategy will work best for you. Normal mainstream media works, but you often need to pay for that. You often need to get people to come in, buy into it so that you can make use of it. Newspapers aren't going to run a story and aren't going to run something unless there's a feel-good story in it. So you've got to work and manipulate and see what's going to work best for the audience you're trying to target.
Thank you, Kathy. I agree with you that, you know, it's very useful to focus on what people can do, and even if it's something small, it leads to a much larger impact. Then I see we're running slightly out of time. All the wonderful things that we heard about today have taken up a bit of time, but just one more question for you, Kathy, and then we'll quickly have a closing question for each of our presenters. As a marine scientist working at Ushaka, can you recommend ways in which these different organizations can further the environmental goals and prevent plastic pollution from entering the environment?
I think one of the biggest things is to put your money where your mouth is. So walk the talk. Show people how you are reducing plastic. Start with the things that are easy to stop using. In case of plastic, because that's one of our main focuses here at Ushaka, but it's also going to have the biggest impact, so that people can see see that there's an immediate change with that, and something that's also easy to phase out. So it's not something that you rely on a daily basis, but something that is extraneous, but you're getting it all the time. And from that, you can use that as part of your communication to people and to encourage them. So it's easy. You're showing them that it's easy to make these changes. And then with that, in building on that, to encourage them to take the next step, to get involved with cleanups, to get involved with more recycling or more in-depth recycling, and taking that route.
Wonderful. Kathy. Just a closing question to each of our panelists before we have to leave. If a youth were to come to you and ask what your advice would be for them to start an environmental organization, what would be 1 or 2 pieces of advice that you would give them? I think let's use the order that we had before. Sorry to put you on the spot, but Asithandile, would you like to go first? And then we can go to Sia, Samantha, and Austin. So 1 or 2 pieces of advice that you would give someone looking to start an environmental organization as a youth.
It's like,
okay, oh, you're back. Okay.
I'm sorry. I would advise them to actually do the research first to find out what's out there, just in case you don't do something that other people are already doing, that you could actually join in. And then if you know there's nothing you find, then just go for it and do much planning as you can, and then find other people who are interested in what you're doing and just go for it.
Thanks, Asithandile. Sia?
Hi, Tara. If I could give the youth any advice, oh gosh, this is such a broad space where we are working in, and there's a lot of work that needs to be undertaken. I would say find your focus and try to focus on one thing. The best advice with us as the Giving the Wings Foundation, we are focused in schools because that's where we believe we can convert schools into environmental hubs. So find your focus first and where you can throw your energy and your intention. And then from that, draw in as much like-minded people as possible. I do that with you, SST. I've worked with SST on a lot of projects over the past few years. So find your focus and draw partnerships and then build from that. And also network as much as we can.
Thanks, Sia. Samantha?
Okay, so my answer would be, if you're going to start any organization, it would be to follow your passion, like what is deeply your passion. Because you can get tired of every single thing, you can get tired of work, but you'll never get tired of your passion. So something that will drive you every single day is following your passion so you can see that organization through. And also another one would be to always educate yourself, like every single day, educate yourself about all of the issues that affect you, things that you can solve, educate others, find a way to spread the word, and make your passion infectious.
Thank you, Samantha. Austin?
So I think everyone has summed up exactly what I wanted to say. So yeah, to echo Sia, is you know, find your area, find your niche, if I can say. Do what you're passionate about, like Samantha said. Try and find out what's doable, because I think a lot of times people try to take on the world. They try to do too much. So just find your niche in your area, what you have the capacity to do. And then secondly is network. Use social media, LinkedIn. I know a lot of people go, oh, LinkedIn, blah, blah. But it's a really great tool to get your message out there, to find like-minded people who can help and contribute towards your cause as well. And that's definitely something that I've done with the organizations I've volunteered for, is networking, really getting yourself out there. And people are always happy to join and volunteer and help you out if they have a similar mission.
Thank you so much, Austin. Kathy, would you like to add to this?
Yes, you don't need to be drastically innovative to go. So keep your, start off small, and then as things gain momentum, grow and unite, engage, work together with other organizations that are like-minded, because together you have a louder voice, you're much stronger, and you can lobby for things a lot easier. And go for, if it's your passion, go for it. Don't let the naysayers pull you down, because you're making a difference, and that's what counts.
Okay, we're slightly after 11, but I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you all for presenting, for sitting on our panel. It's really inspiring to hear the work that you're all doing, and we really hope that this goes further, and that today's session was helpful and can help further all the environmental goals. So thank you so much again, everyone, for presenting, for those of you who attended, and we look forward to seeing you in our next session next week. Thank you so much. We'll close it here for this morning. And if anyone has any further questions at a later stage, please feel free to email us, and we can't wait to see you guys next week. Thank you.